I suspect they might be playing Europa League football next season because I think they're going to win the Conference League. But even that is a relatively unlikely set of circumstances. And I think for them, it's the big bang moment of potentially, going deep into the Europa League and what might happen from there. That has been taken from them, that's for certain.
So since winning the FA Cup on May the 17th, as you can see there, over Manchester City, minority shareholder John Textor left the club, but his involvement with both Palace and the French team Lyon meant that UEFA demoted them from the Europa League to the Conference League due to ownership rules. They appealed the verdict to the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland last week, but that appeal has failed and the decision has been upheld. So Palace will play in the Conference League this coming season. For more on this, let's speak to James Benge. James, great to see you as always. Was there any feeling that Palace might win this appeal and actually get to play in the Europa League rather than the Conference League?
Well, the word coming out of Palace was really confident. Steve Parish spoke to reporters and those of us at Wembley yesterday after the Conference League, the Community Shield, and really did express his strong confidence that the appeal would be successful. But I think the reality is it always looked quite a long shot. CAS and UEFA had blocked other teams involved in multi-club setups. And the reality of the rules and regulations, however you feel about them, is that Palace had a deadline of March the 1st on which to make arrangements if they were going to be in Europe, and they failed to do so. And CAS has ultimately concluded that UEFA have carried out the letter of their laws correctly. I do appreciate, and the Palace fans I speak to are livid about all of this, and it is deeply disappointing. But, I think some of that ire could potentially be sent towards those, including John Textor, who put them in this position, and UEFA felt they had nothing that they could do but follow their rules and regulations, Lyon in the Europa League and Palace in the Conference League.
Yeah, clear anger, and understandably so, from Crystal Palace fans, and I'm sure the club themselves, especially towards their owner, previous owner. I'm just going to throw this out there, James. When you have a situation like this and you lose an estimated 20 million, does it affect you now going into the transfer market, whether you have the ability to keep players or whether you're maybe potentially bringing players into your football club and now you can't because you simply don't have the funds?
Well, the way Steve Parish would put this is that what it's maybe done is just limited Palace's horizons a little bit. I think that would be fair based on, his past public utterances and how Palace might approach this. They are not a team that budgets for playing European football. So this is not a financial hammer blow. And in many ways, I'm not sure it will greatly change the future prospects of some of their players. We still expect Mark Gay to leave. Parish confirmed that. Eberechi Eze's future, I don't think, was contingent on whether Palace played Europa League or Conference League. It would have been nice, and like you say, 20 million can go a long way for a club as well run as Palace. But I think the real sort of frustration for Palace is more that they lose the opportunity to dream really, really big. And this is one of the things that Parish has said before. If they go into the Europa League, they go into it believing they can win it. I don't think they'd be the absolute favourites, but the team we saw just play Liverpool, they could beat anyone in the Europa League. And that suddenly opens the door to Champions League football. And if you can get that once, that can radically change your club. Palace have these great plans to change Selhurst and to redevelop that. Champions League money would go a long way. And that avenue is somewhat closed off. I mean, I suspect they might be playing Europa League football next season because I think they're going to win the Conference League. But even that is a relatively unlikely set of circumstances. And I think for them, it's the big bang moment of potentially, going deep into the Europa League and what might happen from there. That has been taken from them, that's for certain.
And building on that point, though, James, and you've sort of said it there, that they've got an opportunity if they were in the Europa League potentially to go deep. We've talked about this on the show yesterday, that we think they're going to be one of the dark horses in the Premier League, particularly if they keep all of those star players. They will legitimately feel that they can win the Conference League. And for the history, as we both know, having lived in England for a long, long time, of Crystal Palace Football Club, not won a trophy for a long, long time until, May, when they beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final. I mean, winning a European competition, these fans wouldn't have even dreamed of that a few years ago.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for Palace fans to sort of get into that headspace. I was at Wembley yesterday and I saw that banner that was in the clips, and you see a few other maybe images from there. I don't think I can relay to you any of the chance with regards to Palace's feelings about UEFA, but they weren't strong. And I suspect in those early Conference League games, we'll be hearing a lot of that. But you are right, Adam. I mean, look, Selhurst Park, I don't think has ever hosted a major European game. And this is something that was beyond the dreams of many Palace fans even a few months ago. It's kind of some of the reason why that they didn't get their forms in on time. And, you know, I think if they do make that deep run, it will make for a really special season. You look at those past champions there. I think they're the equal of the West Ham side that won it, the equal of the Aston Villa side that went close the following season. So that's the positive. But I don't think many Palace fans that are watching us stateside are probably feeling that right now. I hope come the spring, there's something to celebrate in being in the Conference League, but they'll be feeling that £20 million loss and maybe the loss of the opportunity to play some of the big names in Europe.
James, I've got a mate who's a Crystal Palace fan, and he is absolutely furious at all Americans because of the American owner who had 43% stake in the club. He's just angry at all Americans now because of this decision. So he did reach out to me and he asked me, what's the possibility of UEFA actually making adjustments to the multi-club ownership and potentially looking deeper into what percentage you can own of a football club, maybe even the whole multi-club ownership structure? Do we see it change in the future?
I think UEFA will acknowledge that it is going to have to adapt because this isn't going anywhere. And over the years to come, there will need to be some degree of adaptation because it's only going to become more prevalent. There are only going to be more teams that are caught up in these multi-club webs, or however you might want to term them. But right now, I think they would argue that, you know, their rules are working relatively well. If you are making adjustments to ensure that you as an owner cannot influence multiple clubs, then they are perfectly happy for those clubs to play in the same competition. We saw that with Marinakis briefly putting Forest in a blind trust when it looked like they might make the Champions League. It's hard to believe that Palace are going to be the only club that run afoul of this. We've seen three this summer already. Dundalk is one, and I'll admit I can't remember the other off the top of my head. It's going to keep rearing its head, and there are going to be fans like Crystal Palace's who say, how is it fair that Manchester City and Girona can play in the Champions League together, that Salzburg and Leipzig can as well? But, you know, Palace were never really, truly, they felt part of a multi-club model. Is just that they had someone on their board that, you know, I understand with 43% stake, he had a significant influence, whether or not he acted on it. So this issue is not going away at all. Palace are really the canary in the coal mine here. I think we will see further changes required to the multi-club ownership rules because this is just going to keep happening. More and more clubs are going to head towards the multi-club ownership model unless UEFA does something drastic, which I think is probably too late. The boulder's already rolling towards these, you know, city football groups and Red Bulls and the like.
Safe to say John Textor's not going to be booking any holidays to Croydon anytime soon, I don't think. Or at least he'll have to go in a disguise.
Might have to watch out for my mate. He's looking for him.
He'll be over there as well.
I don't know if you saw that he's been linked with the takeover at Sheffield Wednesday now. I mean, talk about out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say St. Pauli there. I was about to leave the studio.
Keep him well clear of that. James, thanks for your insight as always. We'll chat to you soon here on Scoreline. Ian, to sort of continue that conversation and pick up on what James said there, what does it mean for the future of football and the future of the way that top-level football has been going and having these multi-club ownerships? Because I think you can understand why, from a business perspective and from a sporting perspective, they do make sense.
Listen, I enjoy learning about the business side of the game. I think it's so important for the development and the future of our game that a lot of money floats into football and it continuously stays in football. Transfers need to start happening maybe more regularly. It has been a crazy summer and we're seeing ridiculous transfers, but yet still we need a little bit more. And I think the multi-club ownership has been successful. I've worked closely with City Football Group and I've watched how amazing they do business with all of their clubs, how much they care about each individual club, how much they care about each individual player that plays for their respective clubs. That's how to do it right. I think when you look at the Red Bull system, it's also done almost to perfection. I think the New York side maybe needs a little bit more love from the UEFA sides that they're getting right now. But I think it has to change in some way. We have to protect situations like this. So my question to James there wasn't necessarily taking away the multi-club ownership, which I do think can be successful. It brings in a lot of money from regions around the world, and it brings in supporters from regions in the world who are following those owners. So to me, the development has to have multi-club ownership. But how you do it, and how much percentage you do it, and which individual, if they're going to be involved in your football club, and in many different football clubs around UEFA or around the world, that needs to be scrutinised a little bit more. The individual themselves, the finances themselves, all have to be really closely looked at. This situation was a bit of a farce, never looked out good from the get-go. I think even Leon would say the same about Textor. I think it's really been poor ownership. But obviously, he's put himself into a great position with Botafogo. That's been a real success story for him. So he does know how to run a football club. There's no doubt about it. It's just about the rules and regulations. Can he keep up with it all, maybe?
Also, the interesting thing is what is required to be successful running a football club in Europe is different to in the States, in South America, or all around the world. So it'll be really interesting to see how that topic develops over the coming years.